The Four Noble Truths are the foundation of the Buddha's teachings. These four insights, seemingly simple, are in fact so profound that one could spend a lifetime understanding just one. The Pali word for truth, Sakka, also means reality, or what is real. Thus, the Four Noble Truths are not philosophical statements to be believed or accepted. The Buddha taught them as scientific truths, like gravity, evolution, or the laws of thermodynamics. They represent objective and fundamental aspects of reality that the Buddha realized upon his enlightenment. Not knowing these truths, he said, is like walking through life in a dream, repeating the same mistakes without understanding how they lead to suffering. However, it is no coincidence that these truths are called noble. Merely hearing them is the first step on a path that may one day lead you to become an enlightened being, a Buddha. So let us explore the Four Noble Truths and see how these ancient teachings can enrich our lives as sentient beings grappling with the mystery of existence. Before we dive in, if you find value in these teachings and want to explore more about mindfulness, meditation, and living a balanced life, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Daily Dharma. Your support helps this community grow and allows us to create more content to guide you on your journey. Together, let's cultivate peace, one moment at a time. Now, let's begin. What is dukkha? Most people translate this Pali word as suffering, but that is only partially correct and can be misleading. Suffering is a strong word that we rarely use in everyday language. We might say we had a stressful day at work, felt frustrated about losing our headphones, or regretted not speaking to our high school crush. Life is full of such unpleasant experiences, but calling them suffering feels exaggerated. The Buddha meant these things when he spoke of dukkha, but he also meant much more. For example, losing your keys is dukkha, but losing a loved one is also dukkha. Regretting your lunch choice is dukkha, but regretting 30 years of a bad marriage is also dukkha. Stubbing your toe is dukkha, and living with lifelong trauma is also dukkha. The point is that dukkha can be translated as suffering, but also as dissatisfaction, discomfort, stress, or unease. All these things are dukkha, but dukkha is none of them. Dukkha is a much deeper word than any English translation can suggest. It refers to a profound reality of life, that we never truly get what we want, and even when we do, we eventually lose it. This is the first noble truth of Buddhism. But it's not just unpleasant things that are dukkha. The Buddha told his disciples that even material and spiritual pleasure is dukkha. The pleasure you feel during an orgasm is dukkha. The joy of seeing your child born is dukkha. Even the pleasure of learning the Buddha's teachings is dukkha. Why? Because none of it lasts forever. Think about it. Any happiness or pleasure you find in this life, whether material or spiritual, will eventually fade. And when it does, it will leave you with the pain of separation. So all happiness and pleasure in this world contain the seed of dukkha, and you will experience that dukkha, if not now, then later. This is not an opinion but a reality of life. The first noble truth is much deeper and darker than most people realize. It doesn't just say there is dissatisfaction in life. It says that even what we think of as happiness is merely deferred dissatisfaction. Pleasure is the mask of pain, achievement is the mask of disappointment, and happiness is the mask of dukkha. There is a certain virtue in focusing on the darker side of life. After all, dukkha is the universal problem faced by all sentient beings at all times and in all places. In his excellent book, What the Buddha Taught, Walpola Rahula writes, "Doctor may gravely exaggerate an illness and give up all hope. Another may ignorantly declare that there is no illness and that no treatment is needed, deceiving the patient with false consolation. You may call the first a pessimist and the second an optimist. Both are equally dangerous, but a third doctor correctly diagnoses the symptoms, understands the cause and nature of the illness, sees clearly that it can be cured, and courageously administers a treatment, thereby saving the patient." The Buddha is like the third doctor. After discovering that existence is full of dukkha, what did the Buddha do? Surely a lesser mind would have collapsed into nihilism. After all, if everywhere you look there is dukkha and more dukkha, what is the point of anything? A Western nihilist might recommend suicide here, But even that is no escape for the Buddha. The Buddha, after all, was certain of the reality of reincarnation and the law of karma. Taking one's life as an act of violence would only worsen one's situation. In a future life where dukkha is even more intense, so trapped in this endless labyrinth of dukkha, what could the Buddha do to improve his situation? He did what he advises all of us to do. He turned his trained mind exclusively toward dukkha. He looked and looked and looked deeply, and there, right in the midst of dukkha, he discovered the second noble truth, craving. No matter how different people are, they all have one thing in common. In every case, they want their experience to be different from what it actually is. That is craving, the fundamental desire for reality to be other than it is now. Pay attention. It is not the craving for bad things, but craving itself that creates dukkha. A monk craves enlightenment, a lover craves their beloved, a woman craves, a child, a Wall Street trader craves a bigger paycheck, a man craves love, another craves hate. The details don't matter. Craving is always the root of dukkha. Everything we desire brings us dukkha because we don't have it. Even if we get what we want, it's never as good as we imagined. Even if it is as good as we imagined, it never lasts. The paths of desire are many and winding, but they all lead to the gates of dukkha, and it gets worse. Craving is an addiction. When our desires bring us dissatisfaction, we don't abandon them. On the contrary, we feel that only more desire and the attainment of other things can bring us lasting happiness. Of course, that never happens. Every desire comes with the promise of a better life. But desire is like the mythical hydra. Cut off one head, and two more grow in its place. Every desire fuels even more desires until they all burn in the fire of dukkha. In the fire sermon, the Buddha tells his disciples, "Everything is burning, monks. Everything is burning." The Buddha distinguishes some desires as better than others. For example, the desire to become a better, more responsible person is more productive and less harmful than the desire for alcohol. But as we progress on the path to enlightenment, we must learn to detach even from our spiritual ambitions. The amazing thing is that the Buddha designed his teaching in such a way that one must learn everything through difficult and prolonged practice and then completely let go of it. The Buddha expresses this in his famous metaphor of the raft. He describes his teaching as a raft you use to cross a dangerous river. But what should you do once you've safely reached the other shore? Will you carry the raft with you everywhere? Of course not. That would only complicate things further. The same goes for the Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha. At first, you must strive hard to learn it, and it will save you much suffering. But once you've progressed far enough, holding on to it will only hinder your progress. Staying tied to concepts and practices, even those taught by the Buddha, will hold you back. The third noble truth is one of the most extraordinary and affirmative statements about life ever formulated. It is the assertion that it is possible for a human being to completely and permanently end dukkha. This truth comes from the Buddha's direct experience after his enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. He discovered a reality free from all craving and dukkha. It was not a concept or an abstract idea, but something even more real than what we are accustomed to in our daily lives. The Buddha called this reality nirvana. Nirvana is not only difficult, but impossible to explain in words. We have created words to talk about the illusory world we experience with our senses, but nirvana lies beyond all appearances. Words can only circle around it, but never enter and survive, like moths around a flame. The literal meaning of the Sanskrit word nirvana is extinguishing, as when a fire goes out. Nirvana is not a state or a thing, but a transition. Therefore, when people say the Buddha attained nirvana, that is misleading. It is more accurate to say the Buddha went out. But what exactly is extinguished during nirvana? The short answer is that nirvana is the extinction of craving, all preferences and aversions, all desire and attachment, all hatred, greed and delusion, all feelings of being a separate self. All these flames that turn our lives into a living hell are extinguished during nirvana. So it is absurd to say that nirvana is something you desire. By definition, nirvana is the end of all desire. If you desire nirvana, you are desiring a false idea in your imagination of what nirvana is. Even the desire to be liberated from dukkha must end if you want dukkha to end. The more we delve into this topic, the more inadequate words become. Perhaps this gives the impression that nirvana is a supernatural, extraordinary state accessible only to meditation masters. This is incorrect. Nirvana is not the result of anything. If it were a result, it would be an effect produced by a cause. Nirvana is neither cause nor effect. You can see light, but the light is not the result of your sight. Nirvana is a noble truth, a fundamental element of our reality. When we live in ignorance, nirvana seems strange and exotic. But for one who has removed the beam from their eye and developed wisdom, nirvana is what has always been there. The Buddha did not just speak of nirvana and leave people hanging. Like a good doctor, he gave detailed prescriptions on how to live to end the disease of dukkha. His disciples compiled all the prescriptions he gave on various occasions and organized them into a system they began to call the path. This system had 8 main components, and so they called it the Noble Eightfold Path. This path constitutes the 4th noble truth. The Noble Eightfold Path is based on the idea that there is a wrong way to live that creates dukkha and a right way to live that can reduce dukkha until it disappears completely. This division between wrong and right actions is not based on the Buddha's subjective opinion, but is a nearly scientific theory based on evidence you can inspect for yourself. To the Buddha, most people walk through life asleep, immersed in delusion, and therefore unknowingly live in a way that creates dukkha. His teachings were a manual on how to live correctly and minimize dukkha for oneself and others. The Eightfold Path consists of right view, understanding the nature of reality and the 4 noble truths, right intention, cultivating thoughts of renunciation, goodwill, and harmlessness, right speech, speaking truthfully, kindly, and without harm, right action, acting in ways that do not harm others or oneself, right livelihood, earning a living in a way that does not cause harm, right effort, cultivating positive states of mind and abandoning negative ones, right mindfulness, developing awareness of the present moment, right concentration, practicing meditation to achieve mental focus and clarity. The Eightfold Path is not sequential. All its facets depend on one another. You have right view only if you have right mindfulness, and you have right mindfulness only if you have right concentration, and so on. As Walpola Rahula writes, the path is a way of life to be practiced and developed by each individual. It has nothing to do with belief, prayer, worship, or ceremony. It is a path that leads to the realization of ultimate reality, to complete freedom, and to perfect happiness and peace through moral, spiritual, and intellectual perfection. The 4 noble truths are not just philosophical ideas, but practical tools for understanding and transforming our lives. They remind us that suffering exists, that it has a cause, that it can end, and that there is a path to its end. The Buddha's teachings are not about blind belief, but about waking up to the true nature of reality. The Buddha was not a god or a prophet, but a human being who woke up from the dream of ignorance and showed us how to do the same. His teachings are like words, whispered in our ear, trying to wake us up too. Dear friends of my YouTube channel, I want to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude to each of you. Your presence on my channel and the time you dedicate to watching my videos means so much more than mere statistics. Your support motivates and inspires me to create even more. I truly appreciate every interaction we share on this platform. If my channel can bring even a small moment of joy, reflection, or escape into your lives, then it has achieved its purpose. Thank you.